Thank you so much, ladies, for being here. I am joined by multiple, let's see, Emily, how old are you?
51.
You're 51? Oh my gosh. I'm the baby here. I'm joined by four other over 50 outrageously gorgeous carnivore women. And I'll also say they're super inspiring and powerful. So it's an honor for me to be here. And we are here to talk about, first of all, the difference between no sweeteners and including sweeteners on a carnivore diet. Now, a strict carnivore diet would not include sweeteners. And I think it's good for anyone to try that. It's a great elimination diet. I did it for healing my gut, for gaining healthy weight, reversing autoimmune disease. And I chose to use sweeteners because I had to eat enough. I had to gain weight. I was 69 pounds. And I have gone without sweeteners and I have gone with sweeteners. I have struggled with binge eating, a real season of binge eating. I couldn't drive in my car without snacking on something. I would stay up from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. binging on food, desperately trying to gain weight. I never binged junk food, never the standard American diet. It was keto treats. So I know how much of a stumbling block those sweeteners can be, like stevia, erythritol, things like that. And so I'm joined by these women, these older carnivore women who are thriving without any sweet tasting things. And that blows my mind. I personally choose to use sweeteners because it makes it more sustainable for me. But I do take breaks from them. I make sure that I don't need them. And there may be a day where I just cut them out altogether. So I want to allow these women to share their personal stories, how they came to carnivore and why they've chosen to use no sweeteners, just to start out with. So Emily, can you start out just by introducing yourself and sharing a bit about how you came to carnivore and why you choose the no sweetener route?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Emily Harveau. I'm 51. I'll be 52 in May. And my journey was the journey that started with keto, low carb, intermittent fasting, and then I landed on carnivore. Carnivore was my finisher. And so I did, sweeteners were part of my journey the entire process. I started at 300 pounds and through over 4 years and all these different modalities, lost 150 pounds. And my last 50 pounds was lost on carnivore. So I've been a 2.5-year carnivore. So I'm pretty new into the whole carnivore lifestyle. I was very drawn to carnivore because that's what I heard about was the food freedom and the not having the cravings. So what can happen with a super faster like me, someone who's always going on different fasts, is you can accidentally start fasting too much and then your cravings can get out of control. It is your hormones. The thing I think we want to remember with all of this is it comes down to your hormones. And so your cravings and your triggers are controlled by your hormones. And so they are signs that something is off and your body's not getting something that it truly needs. So for me, even on my fast, there's a telltale cue to like, okay, you need more feasting. You need to come back to what we call in our fasting program a home base, is a time that you do a lot of nourishing before you're ready for that fast. And you will get a sweet craving. So a sweet craving is basically quick energy. It's your body calling out for fast energy. And so it's kind of a sign that you're not really burning fat that great, that once you kind of get through that fat adaptation and you don't have as much cravings, that tends to not be as much of the process. But back to my story. So sorry. So
no, it's good.
I dabbled with sweetener, no sweetener with carnivore, and I just had more food freedom without it. Here's the thing that's so nice about carnivore, the simplicity. I mean, it can get so simple that you can go all the way to beef only if you want for a season. And so for me, keeping the sweeteners out was another way to simplify my lifestyle, because what I have found with carnivore is I don't have to track. I don't have to look at calories. There's so many things I don't have to do anymore. And getting sweeteners out was part of that process. I was completely addicted to keto treats. So that is really interesting to hear you say that, Rebekah. And so even though I was already coaching people at that point and I was so excited and, was making a lot of progress, had lost, 100 pounds, that still had its hooks in me, is the way that I feel. It feels like this little, like sneaky little And it just comes and it like makes it so I can't think. I start thinking about the sweeteners. And one thing I do want to bring up is that in nature, there are hardly any foods that have fat and sweet together. So nuts is one of the only ones that and nuts, I don't really consider nuts to be a food. I consider them to be a poison.
Yes.
And if you want to think about foods that don't have satiety, that you lose control on, it's putting sweet and fats together.
Yep.
That's one of the big food categories. It's sometimes putting fats and salt together. And so for me, knocking out sweeteners knocked out a huge category of foods that I just could never get enough of, foods that did not give me correct satiety. So those are the reasons why it has been a foundation for me, is it protects my food freedom. Plus, we don't even know what these things are doing. A new study came out just this last week about erythritol and damage that that's causing, the associations it has. And where have we heard study after study after study with sweeteners that are coming out? And even if you look at our natural sweeteners, so our, the amino acid that you can take and you separate this amino acid, glycine, I think is what it's called, in some chemistry lab, like that's not natural. Glycine comes as a complete amino acid as part of, food. So the stevia, you're like, well, now we're back into plants, and so I think there's so much uncertainty, and I think the simplicity of having the no sweetener life was crucial for me. So it's been a big component. And at Rebekah's retreats, I love to make non-sweetened desserts. I've got a slew of them. They're, typically high fat, sometimes tallow based, sometimes dairy fat based. But yeah, for me, it's a crucial component of my food freedom.
That's incredible. So something that really stood out, your story speaks to my story. And though we make different choices in terms of sweeteners now, like you said, we were both addicted to the keto treats. And I love that you pointed out that in nature, we don't get high sugar and high fat things together. My number one binge food was coconut manna. It's like coconut butter. It's fatty and it's sweet. It's like candy. I was so hooked on that stuff. I was embarrassed of my behavior with it that I would eat it in my closet, my walk-in closet.
Totally.
And that's when I realized this is not healthy. And that was my first sign that like these keto treats, these fat bombs, these sweetened fat bombs are a mistake. And the game changer for me has been only eating things with stevia that have tons of protein. So something that I use is the beef protein isolate. So I make my carnivore brownies. It's almost pure protein. And that makes it so much more difficult for me to overeat. But I will say that you have to repair your leptin, your satiety hormone first. And to do that, we have to remove, for me, I did have to remove the dairy and the sweeteners for almost a whole year to fully repair my leptin. And that's when I did my most healing, was in that year. And I ate a bunch of fatty lamb, salt, and water. That's what I did. So I love that you mentioned that. I think a lot of people find healing and progress in keto, but there's still something going on mentally and at a biochemical level and a hormonal level that we have to fix. And that can be done with a carnivore diet. And I find that only meat and no sweeteners scratches every itch. And it really does give you that true food freedom. And that means freedom to live your life without thinking about food around the clock. And then to speak to the recipes that you have made at my retreats, when you and Laura made that oopsie cake, I didn't want to make any more of my carnivore desserts. I was like, I want this every night. I love this stuff. That tasted so good. And there are no sweeteners in it. I think it's just ultimately the way. I feel called to provide variety for people who are trying to gain weight and people in this little niche. But I mean, I think that is the most satisfying version of this way of eating. So thank you for sharing that.
So no, it was so fun to do that. And what I noticed too, is that obviously dairy can be an issue too. And so I noticed Rebekah was kind of on she had sweeteners, but she didn't have dairy. And I was kind of on I don't have sweeteners, but Dairy is kind of like my treat.
Yeah.
And I have figured out how to make a lot of things out of tallow. So I did, I've been developed, I have a high fat carnivore cookbook that, people can find on Bella's Mighty Networks. And I have a lot of tallow based things in there too. So I play with, it's a bliss point actually. And it's kind of funny because, we're looking for that food freedom and that neutrality. But sometimes when we want to have the treat or the satisfaction, we can dip into that a little bit. And then we have to know ourselves. And so if you're losing control on tallow bites or tallow fudge, I make a tallow fudge. If you're losing control on tallow fudge, then you do have to know yourself and you do have to back out and get to that spot where food is food and food is nourishment. And it's in a more neutral category emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, can we bring on Laura next? Laura Lynch is another dear friend. I got to meet her at my last retreat. And one thing that really struck out to me is that you walk a lot. You are very disciplined in your daily habits and routines. And that's something that really got me from point A to point B, was that consistency and the little things that really add up. And so you are also a carnivore. You're glowing here on the camera. Would you mind sharing, first of all, how old you are and what brought you to carnivore?
Okay. Well, if you're the baby, I guess I'm the old broad here because I'm 68 years old.
Gosh, you look amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I came to Carnivore. I just celebrated in January my 1-year anniversary of Carnivore. And I had started ketovore basically the August before. So that would have been in 2021. And have someone who has never been a big sweets person, but keto treats. So I've always been, I like savory things. I like salty things. But I started ketovore. So very meat heavy, a little bit of vegetable and no keto treats initially. And then for the holidays, I decided, I was following Maria Emmerich and some of her recipes. And I decided I would make, this first one was a pumpkin cheesecake for Thanksgiving. And even though I brought it to share with everyone, most of it went home with me, of course. So who ate it? And then there was Christmas and I made truffles. And this is all erythritol based. And I made a huge amount of them, of course, because if you're making it, you're making all that mess once. And I would have one every 5 days. And then it was, maybe one every 3 days. And then maybe I'll have 2 today. And then all of a sudden it was like almost hourly, crazy. Still didn't kind of connect that something was not positive here happening. And so then I made one last thing for New Year's. Again, took it to share with some friends that I was with. And of course, everybody had a sliver and then they're like, okay, let's eat the other dessert. And again, I ended up, and all of a sudden here I am, someone who's never had a sweet craving, excessive sweet craving in her life. And I'm just 24/7 wanting sugar. So what is in erythritol that makes, they say some of these things, they're 10 times sweeter than natural sugar. And I didn't feel erythritol had that. Like, I don't care for stevia because I think that's just to taste overly sweet. But the erythritol to me tasted kind of like sugar, 1 for 1 or whatever. But I was just constantly, that's all I could think about. And that was around the time that I found Bella's group and heard about their priming and how it eliminates cravings. And I was like, well, I got to try this because I have created this beast that I've never had to deal with. And I only had about probably 25 to 30 pounds I wanted to lose. My health has always been pretty good. I'm very active. So my component wasn't so much, I have this big weight loss or huge medical issues. I just want to get rid of this weight that's been coming on year after year after year, no matter what I do. And I wanted to get rid of this sweet craving. So followed the priming and the fasting protocol for the 3 months. But honestly, as soon as I started priming and eating the amount of carnivore foods that my body had probably been craving anyway, bam, it was gone. And I know now I can, if I want, I can go back and have something like my mother's 90th birthday was last year, and we celebrated it down here in Florida, and we had key lime pie, and I decided I'd have a piece. Well, I could have a piece, but there's none of this excessive craving, or I have to go back, you know?
Yeah.
So I was just amazed. And since then, as Emily said, the simplicity of eating carnivore, your body is satiated, you're happy, you don't think about food all the time. And I can honestly say that even though I didn't have excessive sweet cravings, I did think about food a lot. So I was like, oh, what's the next meal going to be? What am I going to prepare?
Yeah.
And I love to cook. So, you know, it was tied with that too. A lot of people find being in the kitchen stressful. That would be relaxing for me. I love to cook and prepare new things. So that part of carnivore is maybe not so fun. It's like, yeah, whatever. I'm just going to throw a piece of meat on the grill. But anyway, so that's kind of where I came from with this.
That's awesome.
Still fantastic. I think my total weight loss somewhere in the area of about 27 pounds. Body restructuring though too has come with that. But certain things, like I always thought I was going to end up having to have maybe a knee replacement at some point. That's all gone. That went, I got in further into carnivore. That one issue is kind of gone. So yeah, the simplicity of it and just how you feel. I feel amazing. I don't feel like I'm going to be 69 years old, you know, and I run circles around much younger friends. And they just keep looking at me and saying, I don't know how you can just eat that way. And I'm like, look at our differences. I'm not complaining about aches and pains. I'm not saying I'm tired all the time. So to me, it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's incredible. So something you shared that struck a chord with me is that when you got into the feasting with Bella's group, that's when you really squelched all those cravings.
Absolutely.
And something that I find with myself and my clients is when someone's having a sweet craving, I don't think they're eating enough. Either you have some type of nutrient deficiency or you're just not eating enough. And I think that can happen with a lot of people on carnivore because meat is satiating. And before carnivore, we're used to eating one burger and that being the protein for the whole meal.
Right.
So carnivore is a lot more. And if you want this to be your lifestyle and you want to get rid of those cravings, we have to eat enough. And I think that really saturating yourselves with those nutrients and giving yourself permission to eat until you're satiated with just fat and protein is a total game changer. And it does take away that subconscious thought of, ooh, I'm going to have dessert later. Just focus on eating enough meat and you won't have to give your energy to those sweet tasting things.
Well, and I honestly, having dabbled a little bit with the high fat now too, I think that that's another component that a lot of early carnivores get wrong is that, you know, we're also focused on the meat. You know, I used to sit there with a 12 or 16 ounce ribeye and I'd eat the whole thing, but maybe I was still looking for something else afterwards. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, do you really need more? And of course we say to ourselves, no, you just had a 16 ounce ribeye for gosh sakes. Although originally I think I wasn't into ribeyes as much. I started with New York strips and I think that's where the problem came. Is that they were too lean and I wasn't adding butter because, you know, you're just meat focused in the beginning, right? You're protein focused. So I really think that a lot of people don't eat enough fat too. So I've been, you know, kind of experimenting a little bit with, and I've been sending Emily messages. Oh, I did this and this happened and blah, blah, blah. So just kind of, I really think that that's a component that needs to be pushed to it. Your retreat, honestly, that was probably like the first light bulb going off because after eating all that lamb and all that fat that we were eating with everything, it was like, so it's not only fatty lamb, but then Emily's making tallow dip and what was the other, the big, oh gosh, what was the other sauce that Chris
fudge, the Dijon,
Yeah, the Dijon stuff. And then you're like, oh, now there's some lamb bacon, eat this too. And anyway, I didn't want to eat for about a week after that. And it took me a long time. I just now started eating lamb again. It was like, I couldn't even look at lamb after that.
Yeah.
So I probably just had from Billy Doe, my first lamb sirloin about 2 weeks ago. I actually cooked them part way before I left Tennessee and brought them frozen here so I could just finish them in the sous vide. And do a quick flash, on them. And it was like, oh, it tastes so wonderful again. But I literally had to take from your retreat to them off and couldn't look at lamb for a bit. But anyway, but that's all the fat we took in was so satiating. So that was a light bulb moment.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. This year I'm going to be bringing more venison, more beef, because it's heavy on the gamey meats during the retreat. But I am very intentional about adding that extra fat. That's why I start the first day with the lamb sirloin. The next day we have the lamb chops, the lamb bacon. I literally put the fattiest cuts at the front of the retreat because I know some of these people probably haven't been eating enough fat, and I want them to experience a breakthrough on the retreat. And I'm so intentional with that. And I think that a lot of people come to Carnivore and they hear just eat meat. Eat the meat you can afford, nothing else. Right. And sometimes that's enough, but sometimes it's not, especially if someone is struggling with sugar addiction. Becoming fat adapted and metabolically flexible sometimes takes more intentionality with the higher fat ratio. And I think a lot of people, I agree, need to hear that the higher fat is better in terms of longevity, but it's also the key to becoming fat adapted and getting your body in that supported place where it's not looking for glucose or even thinking about it.
Yeah, I really
can't
think
do
it
that
helps
with protein
too, for sure.
Yes.
It definitely helps with that craving. So the protein, yes, but I think that you can get there even faster if you have the right amount of fat in the diet too.
Absolutely. Awesome.
I agree
Thank you so much.
And I mean, protein is so important and it helps, and we need it for our mental health. I mean, we need it. It's so important, but the fat, getting that in. Dr. Kiltz likes to say that we are fativores, and I've heard Amber O'Hearn say that we are lipivores, and I just love this. And the first time we met Dr. Kiltz when he was on the Steak and Butter Gang as a guest speaker, he was just giving us this permission to eat the fat. And so I know you're going to have him as part of your retreat this spring. And so he's just going to be so happy. But I loved all of the fatty dips, the fatty sauces, the hollandaise. It was always served with the scrambled eggs every morning. I just doused it in hollandaise. And it was a fativore's dream. And what I also noticed is that the butter, we had like usually Kerrygold, or there was with every meal, there's like a huge thing of butter, and we went for it and we kept on going through that butter. So thank you for providing such a beautiful, like high fat.
I can really make some observations just based on how quickly that butter goes away. You guys probably wiped it out more than any other group, and I was so happy about that.
Oh, and the carnivore bars. During this last retreat that I went to with Rebekah, they had donated some carnivore bars for us. So we tend to not really need 3 meals. 2 meals is good, but Rebekah brought out the carnivore bars, and I had never tried that before. Talk about a fatty, amazing treat. I know Rebekah has a code. If y'all haven't tried carnivore bars, right? What's that?
So do you, right?
I do. I do.
What is it?
Your show, babe.
No, share it. Go ahead and share it. It's for them. It's for them.
Yeah. You know? Oh my goodness. And so I became I did not know about carnivore bars. I have a code so that I can buy them for myself because I'm so addicted to them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they're a ton of fun. I loved them so much. I said, hey, I tried to start a slogan of like, real friends give friends carnivore bars, because as I was leaving the retreat, Rebekah's like trying to give us, meat. She's like loading us up because she had extra and she's so generous. And I was like, well, I'm hopping on a plane. I can't have any meat, but I know something I do want. And she like generously gave me like 3 carnivore bars for my travel home. And I had so much high fat happiness buzz coming off of the incredible retreat.
those carnivore bars are awesome. They're going to contribute to the spring and fall retreat. So I'm so grateful. Yeah, they're awesome. They're so cool. So my code is tailored. Your code is
Emily.
So you guys use either code, check them out, and they're awesome. Cindy, would you like to speak next?
I
And
would love
just
to.
thank you. Just share, first of all, how old you are and
Okay.
what brought you to carnivore and what that looks like for you.
All righty. So I am 67 years old. I came to carnivore from keto. So I was actually like looking at the dates because like, well, how long did I do that for? So I have 2 adult children that brought me to eating keto. I would see them and be like, what are you doing? What is that? And they're like, oh, you should try it. So I did, and I loved it. And I lost a good 50 pounds
Wow.
in 3 years' time. So I did keto. I have a confession. I'm an addict. I'm a total sweet addict. I actually come from a family that battles with addiction, and mine was sweetness. I had trays and trays so I could make my fat bombs. And my daughter said, Mom, you can eat as much of this as you want. And oh man, did I. So between the bacon and the keto treats, I was totally hooked. I never bought the keto treats. Like I know there's companies that make them. And then I started seeing other people on Instagram and on Facebook talking about this carnivore. So after 3 years, I lost my weight. I felt great. I've always walked a lot, and I was feeling great, but there was just something about all these sweeteners. I had the little drops that you add to things in my refrigerator. I probably had 10 different flavors. I had pumpkin, I had caramel, I had all those things, and I added them to everything. And I mean everything. Like, yeah. So I realized that I was really, there was no self-control over the sweetener. So I started using, I use the Relight and the LMNT, and the chocolate LMNT that they came out with just like did me in. And all of a sudden I'm like, no, this is not good. This is not for Cindy. So I kind of just went to carnivore and thought, I don't really even like the keto vegetables. Why am I doing this? This is so silly. So 3.5 years ago in October on my birthday, I said, that's it. I'm done. I am done with the sweeteners. And I just don't allow them. I got rid of everything. I was using erythritol. I was using stevia. Stevia, not so much, but the erythritol, I had these big bags of it. I could make, I fell into the almond flour. I would make biscuits, and like, taste this. It tastes just like a real biscuit. Well, I would eat all 6 of them. Well, what the heck, Cindy? What are you doing? So carnivore was so amazing. You mean I can have ribeye every day if I want? That's really wonderful. The addiction went away towards the sweetness. I follow a lot of different people, some I like, some I follow to get ideas. I attended your retreat last fall. I love lamb. I had no problem with the lamb every day. But to have that hollandaise sauce that Chris made every morning, I was like, oh man, this is really
amazing.
amazing. And the lamb bacon. I mean, who's ever heard of that.
Yeah.
I still to this day I'm on an automatic program with the Carnivore bars, and I give them to people. I think they're just delicious. So I have to stay away for my mental sanity, stay away from the sweeteners. And now it's just a life full of ease. And yeah, I went through my butter phase last fall. I don't do that anymore. And
We were all in the butter phase at the
we
retreat.
were all in the butter phase. And
Half of
I
our plate was butter.
like
No.
texting people, do you think I'll have enough butter? Oh my gosh.
We were a little concerned.
Yeah.
That's so great.
So it was very emotional as an addiction to me, the sweeteners. So now that I've eliminated those, I mean, and what a day to celebrate on the day I was born that, you know, I went to Carnivore. So I think that's about it.
That's
So I
incredible.
wanted to bring something up too. We had this little cohort because Rebekah's retreats are keto retreats, which means that there are some squashes, there are some kind of cactus thing that you serve, some, you know, there's a lot of really cool things that are, you know, keto carnivore. So it's perfect for ketovore, but it is so carnivore based. And we ended up with like a little cohort of us gals that didn't eat sweeteners. And we kind of all ended up kind of hanging out together. Laurel was part of our gang and whatnot. And so, you know, we made these things. Laura was so incredible to make all these things for everybody, but support is important. That's how strong, because being in a social environment at a keto retreat where Rebekah's making incredible ice creams, brownies every night, they're just bringing it out. And, you know, my addiction brain was like, oh, I should probably check that out, you know, but it was really special. I think that every retreat that I've been to with Rebekah, there has been somebody that has been on the non-sweetener road. And so we've made a point to make maybe Bella's egg pudding we'll make. And this time we always make Kelly's oopsie cake, and we kind of find each other. And so it's like a very all encompassing retreat, but I thought that was cute. All of us non-sweetener gals, we kind of ended up in a certain corner often.
And Emily, the other gift that you gave me was, I didn't know I could freeze tallow and eat it.
Oh,
you know, I would whip it and use it as a facial. But I didn't know you could freeze it. And she added, I think it was cinnamon to it.
I did. Yes. Which is very individual. If you have an oxalate, probably you're not going to want to do that. It plays with the bliss point a little bit, but
I was like, oh my gosh. So now I keep my tallow in the freezer, and it's just deliciousness.
Yes.
So that was very eye-opening. So going to a retreat like this, you know, I was very confident. I'm not eating stuff that isn't what I care to eat, but I learned new things at the retreat.
Absolutely. Laurel and I had met before the retreat. She's an incredible helper. And we actually text each other specifically for support to stay non-sweetened, you know.
And I met Laurel at a meetup in Washington in the Pacific Northwest, and she was the one that said, oh well, Cindy, you need to look into this, you know. And it was wonderful her being there and getting to meet everyone in person.
So much fun.
Laurel
oh
join
my
us.
gosh.
I should have had her here. Laurel's amazing. She is one of my best friends. And she definitely, we worked together for, I think, 6 months. And the main thing was, you know, she has to set boundaries for herself and for her family. She doesn't allow certain things in her house. And there's always that dynamic. And yes, she told me at the retreat too, she's like, I am choosing to do no sweeteners. So just so you know, that's what I'm doing. And to have you guys there made me feel so much better too, because it's a big crowd and I want to cater to everyone. And so when you guys started making those waffles and the oopsie cake, I was like, this is incredible. So please continue to come to my retreats if you can make it, because I need to learn how to make some of those non-sweetened desserts. But it's a lot to handle just on my own. So I'm glad that you guys are together.
And I
Yeah.
mean, you and your team creates these incredible menus and feeds us. But what you'll notice over the retreat, people's helpers pop up, you know, it's kind of like what does Mr. Rogers always say, you look for the helpers, you know, whatever, but there's always helpers. And so I love that, you know, we've figured this out and started showing up and like, yeah, let's make this, let's share this. And so it, you know, it's a retreat, but it's not like you want to go to a retreat and like do nothing. Like you want to do something, you want to show off your skills, you want to share your skills together. So I love that there was that component of it, that people were really jumping in and helping out.
And
That's awesome.
That was my first time ever having the oopsie cake there. But I thought one of the best parts of the whole retreat was Rebekah's reaction when she had it. I still pull that little clip up and watch her going.
She was like jumping. It was so cute.
It was so
I was not
adorable.
exaggerating. That was 100%. I just couldn't. I was expecting it just to taste like eggs or something like that. And I mean, like, that was the best thing I put in my mouth all week. It was so good.
I still haven't had it again since then. I thought about making it, and then it's like, oh, I won't, you know, something's not in the house, or it's like, oh no, you really, because I will eat the whole thing.
I would too.
Know already, having tasted it. So it's like I have yet to do it, and someday I will, just because I'll treat myself. But I too found it incredible. I'd been hearing about it for years, and I kept thinking, and we had one member in the SVG gang who had been making it and like badmouthing. Oh, it was terrible. I don't like it, but she kept making it. And then all of a sudden it was like, she's posting pictures every week of an oopsie cake, and she ate it all.
Her diet became ribeye and oopsie cake.
Right, ribeye and oopsie cake, and that. So when I finally got to, but like I said, best part was watching your reaction to it. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
So
So for me, one of the things about I had heard about the retreat, but one of the things, if someone is thinking, well, do I need a week with these people? Let me tell you, I was on the fence about coming to the next one. And I was like, well, but then I found out who else was going to be there. And I was like, okay, that's it. You got me.
Yeah. So Lisa, perfect intro. Lisa is the next person to just share her story, and she will be one of my special guests. So I'll have Dr. Kiltz and Dr. Lisa Wiedemann, and Lisa will be staying with us the whole time, which is a total honor. You know, I'm not paying her to do this. She is taking time out of her busy schedule and everything she does to be there with us every day. And it's such an honor. So Lisa, please just take over and share your story. And how old are you?
Thanks, Rebekah. I am 58 and I have been a practicing eye doctor for 32 years. And I have my 14-year carniversary coming up in a couple days.
Amazing.
That's pretty much my background going into this, but yeah, I will say it for me, just really going through my journey and realizing my passion is trying to help others come out of that dark hellhole I was in for so long with my sugar addiction, eating disorder, binge eating, carb addiction, whatever we want to call it. Those of us who've been in it, and evidently there's about 80% of the population that is addicted to some sort of processed food. I just feel, I guess I've always gone through just feeling if I could help one person get out of the spot I was in, I felt like I was going to kill myself because I was not able to figure out how to stop. And it really came down to the realization that this carnivore way of eating actually allows you to have abstinence from that which we are addicted to and be healthy. Like, it was like such an amazing when I thought, all right, well, this is working, but is it healthy? And then the more I was in it, and so I came to it by finding Charles Washington Zeroing In on Health group, which is way before Instagram and Facebook. And it was a group of people who came together who were doing this kind of crazy meat only Atkins induction kind of thing. Why do we have to stop? It's working so well. And the community there of people sharing their journeys and their stories, and how empowering and impactful it was for me to not feel alone. And, you know, addictions love isolation. And if you've been in anywhere close to where I've been, you know what it's like to kind of hoard food or eat it in the car and throw the wrappers out. You know, all these types of behavior, wait for somebody to go to sleep before you get into the ice cream or whatever it is. These are secretive type behaviors because we're not able to control ourselves around the food because of how powerfully addictive it is. And so that will segue me into my really, I have a pretty strong opinion on the whole artificial sweetener thing because of my own personal experience and also my experience of coaching people for the last about 12 years, that any taste of sweet, hitting the sweet sensors on the tongue, keep triggering the desire for sweet. And somebody say, oh no, I'm fine. I just put my Skinny Girl in my coffee every day. And I'm like, yeah, well, guess what? It's your body wanting it the next day and the next day and the next day, and you're still addicted to it. And one of my, I can't remember who to give this credit to, where I just love using this funny term, but you know, you get off of carbs and sugar and you jump into stevia, monk fruit, erythritol. And I say, you're just changing seats on the Titanic. You're still on the Titanic because for me, and for those who suffer, you become a prisoner of that craving and that addiction. And there is nothing more amazing than to get free of it and to not have it potentially pull you back down the slippery slope. I mean, how many people have yo-yoed back and forth and say, well, I do great. And then so-and-so's birthday or this holiday, and I started in, and then boy, it took me a year to get back out, you know, or there's so many instances like that where people really are expressing their addiction. And it's just like an alcoholic. You have to abstain. You're not going to have a half a shot of tequila every so often because you deserve it, or because it's special, or because whatever excuse you want to use for it. And it, you know, and this is a very multifaceted, very difficult topic, because we're not talking about just the chemical, scientific, physical addiction of the craving and the dopamine hit and the mirror neurons and the lizard brain and all this technical stuff. I mean, that's a component of it. But you know what? We're talking about also filling an emotional void. We're talking about doing things out of boredom or anxiety, stress, just turning to a substance, our DOC, our drug of choice. So, you know, mine happened to be garbage food, right? Sugar, and sugar was my, you know, some people say, well, I was never a sweet eater, but boy, could I eat the chips, right? Whatever it is, we're talking about processed food, and they put sweeteners and sugar in Doritos because these addiction specialists are trying to make that perfect combination of sugar and fat to keep the addiction levels high as possible for profit margins. And you know, we could also look at, you know, and then as I got further into really looking into, you know, stevia and erythritol and monk fruit, and, you know, I'm a big proponent of simple. Simple is the best. And simple means do not eat anything that comes out of a box, a bag, a bottle, or a jar. Okay. Simple is meat, seafood, and eggs. That's simple. And when you start taking something that's come from a company, whether it's erythritol, allulose, monk fruit, and they're processing this into some sort of powder, it's not natural for our microbiome, for our body. And that's my take on it also, as the other side of the whole addiction side. I do feel that there's people who they they are constantly seeking that substitute. What do you mean? What can I have instead of bread? Okay, well, there's the PSMF bread. What do you mean I can't have cake? Okay, there's the oopsie cake. I'd be eating the oopsie cake and that creme brulee for entertainment. That's not for nourishment. And why am I doing it? It makes me really have to so deep down think about, why am I putting this in my mouth? And why do I have to eat the entire carafe? Because I can't stop. Okay. And my dear good friend who's here with me who's been carnivore longer than me. I'm so grateful and thankful for her, because she was one of the women in that original group that was openly writing in the journals that everybody else could read, that I discovered that women with binge eating, eating disorder, sugar addictions totally resolve themselves of it by eating this way. And one of my favorite things that I take from her is to really think about sober behavior. I don't have sober behavior around oopsie cake, because I will have my piece and think, okay, I can do this. I can moderate oopsie cake, and heck, it's carnivore. And next thing I know, I'm cutting off another sliver, right? And now that's bringing me back to my old days of trying to curtail my outright binge disorder. Okay. And then, okay, I get it to be at the point where I put it away. It's screaming at me for 20 minutes later, an hour later, I have another piece. Then I'm like, damn, I might as well just finish it so I don't have to think about it anymore, and I won't have it for tomorrow. And there I am. I'm in the same situation, even there's no sweetener in the oopsie cake. So I'm even going a step further than the sweetener. God forbid I'm having a keto brownie, even if it's highly protein centric. For me, it's the emotion with it and the memory of how I wanted, brownie a la mode. And boy, I can make carnivore ice cream and make a keto brownie, but where am I at? What am I doing? I'm putting myself back into this, basically an emotional state of eating for a reason other than nourishing my body with the most nutrient dense food. Okay. Oopsie cake is not the most nutrient dense food. And when I'm hungry and all right. So, and I will back up and also say, I get it. This isn't a simple thing to jump into as a new person from the standard atrocious diet, as I like to call it. And I really get it. It's so difficult at the beginning, unless you have a true severe why that makes you cry, that says, this is it, I'm done and I'm doing carnivore. I've heard it does this and this, and you jump in. But for the typical person who's just thinking, all right, I really have some aches and pains and I've got this and that, it's not easy. I understand it's not easy to be without bread and pasta and rice and dessert and cookies and ice cream. But therein lies the issue of trying to really fully understand, where am I at with my relationship with food, and why is it that when I taste something sweet and it passes over those sweet sensors on my tongue, my brain lights up and says, I'm going to have, because I had somebody yesterday in one of my lives that I was doing, and they wrote in there, what about 90% dark chocolate?
Oh boy.
How much of that can I have? And I said, you can have a big fat 0 of that if you want to relieve yourself of wanting that square of chocolate every single day. And is it just the one square? Are you thinking about having a second square? Sometimes do you allow yourself the second square? Is it better if you don't have it in the house, you realize? And then when you bring it back in the house, then you're, and then where are we at? We're at this internal struggle that I was so eager to be free of, because I'm tired of struggling with food. I'm tired of struggling with that inner voice that is having this conversation that I don't want it to have, because I'm tired of it. And I know it leads me, sugar is slow suicide. People don't realize, they eat it and they're laughing and they're enjoying, and their holidays and their parties, and everybody's all, giddy around it and everything's fine, right? Because it's not out there as how toxic and inflammatory it really is. because there's not that immediate penalty. But guess what? 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, all of a sudden, people are saying, oh, don't get old. This is what happens when you get old. No, it happens when you've been eating that garbage, the grains, the sugar, the seed oils, the processed food for all this time. So to get to that point where you say, I have to draw the line and I have to abstain. If I don't abstain, it's like feeding a stray cat. If I'm giving it a little, treat here, a little brownie thing here, a little, even for me, oopsie there, even though, like I said, I know there's no sweetener in there, but it is a very similar psychological, let's say, issue that's going on in the head. And then it's the taste and the feel and the chew of certain foods that you're not getting. You eat meat, you eat seafood, you eat eggs, right? There's not that spongy feel of that PSMF bread or the creme brulee. It's like pudding or ice cream, right? We're not getting that with the meat. And so it's pulling me into desiring it even for now for other reasons. And and again, I hate to think I'm dogmatic about anything, because I like to say I have an open mind. I keep researching, learning from both the people who I'm coaching and understanding also about myself. But there's been no wavering point for me about crossing the line with the sweetness, because I know I can't handle having that noise. I don't want it in my life, and to not have it and to have the freedom from it means 100% abstinence from any of those things. And one other thing that I've had people address with me is they want to know, okay, is this safe to eat? I don't have a reaction to it. I can moderate it. We don't have long-term studies, okay? And who's funding this stuff? It's the people that are putting it in their foods. It's the people who are selling it. And I don't trust anybody. I don't trust putting anything in my body that isn't really natural to this earth, because I don't trust anybody's funding of any studies. It's funny because you can even get on the topic of coffee and people be like, well, it's beneficial for this and this and this. You know what? It's an insecticide and it has 700 other chemicals in it. It raises your triglycerides. It messes with your cortisol. It messes with your microbiome. And go ahead, have at it. If you're okay with everything, your health is perfect, no meds, no diagnosis, you feel great, and you're making that decision to put that in your body, but they're like, oh, but the studies show it does this. And I was like, who's funding the studies? Okay. And let me show you some other toxicology studies and really look at it. And why do you want to be addicted to something that you are forced to put in your body every day to not have the withdrawal from it? So I don't know if there's any coffee lovers in here, but I went through my sin. I used to drink coffee all the time. And about 10 years ago, I gave it up because I did not want to be addicted to anything anymore. Once I got finally rid of my carb and sugar fiasco and saw the light at the end of the tunnel, I didn't want to be addicted to anything. I don't want to have to put something in my body. And you think to yourself, all right, I'm drinking coffee and I'm fine with it. You could say that, right? Well, are you going to be drinking it the next 40 years of your life and putting that liquid in your body that's not natural to us? It's a seed. It's not a bean. It's roasted and crushed and boiling water's poured over it. You're putting this in your body every single day. It's a psychoactive drug. And really think about it. Think long and hard. And it's no different to me than the thought of, if I start on artificial sweeteners, and let's say I have some sort of little favorite dessert, or if I'm going to put it in my, I make a nog drink with just melted butter and raw egg yolks and boiling water and a little cinnamon, because I do that too. And if I'm going to start putting in the sweetener, where am I at? What am I doing? And why am I putting that in my body every day? It's because I'm driven to, because I'm starting, then you start looking forward to it. You're like, oh, is it time for my nog, whatever it is, your coffee that you put that little sweetener in, or your, keto treat. And I know some people, and even like that element tea, like the citrus lime with the stevia in it, right? And the chocolate one, it becomes or whatever, they have a raspberry one, and people are putting it in their water because they need their electrolytes. Guess what? They are really looking forward to drinking their water every day. Why? They're getting their sugar hit, they're getting their sweet hit, and then it becomes a whole different thing. I said, put an unflavored one in that water and see how much you love it, and how much you go to it, how much you make it every day. It's an ongoing noise to me in my head that I just don't want. And I try to encourage everybody to at least experience the freedom of it.
Yes.
And, it's hard to say, it's hard enough to tell somebody 30 days. I always say you have to do something. 90 days is the minimum, but 6 months, just say, you know what, it's a little blip on the radar in your life, a 6-month period of time, but you will learn so much. And you can always go back and say, you know what, I can do this, or, oh man, did I learn a huge, this changed this for me. And then I'll put one last thing in here, because I know I'm going on a long tangent, but it's usually that one last thing that you are grasping and holding on to for dear life and saying, don't take it away from me. It's usually that one thing that you most need to give up. And it's the most difficult, but you know what, I say, suck it up, buttercup, just do it. And just, change is hard. And to have a change that you want to see in yourself, you have to be willing to make a change. And, I'll say I have so many people that have this and this, and they're stalled on their weight, and they're this and this. And I go, okay, I want you to do this and this. And like, oh, really? I couldn't do that. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's difficult. And really, usually the most worthwhile things in life, they're not ever the ones that come easy. So that's really one of the, things that I try to emphasize, is that if you don't make the effort and give it a try, whether it's me telling you, you got to lift weights twice a week, you have to walk 8,000 steps every day, try something different, try to change something so far up out of your normal comfort zone that you're really going to learn something. And I don't mean to. So Rebekah, it's like sometimes when I'm giving this whole, like, what I call my anti-sweetener little dissertation here, it just truly comes from my heart, from my experience. And that's all I want to be able to impart is, yes, some people, clearly you, Rebekah, are fine with it. And some people are, but I'm just trying to talk to the people where you know who you are, because Laura found out who she was with it, and Cindy knows what she is with it. Like you will learn that. I guess to me, it's like, yeah, you'll know whether you're a moderator or not. And I've really not met too many people who have come anywhere near from where I am that can moderate even something as simple as a sweetener. So
Yeah, this was incredible. And I was really looking forward to hearing you speak, because I know that you put out a strong message and you stand firm there. And people need that. People really need to be related to, and they need to be encouraged to cut it out and to know yourself. Something that all of you ladies have mentioned is that you figured out something about yourself. You looked deep inside and you figured out the mental conversations and the game that was going on in your head, and you wanted to be free. Something that I think is interesting about me becoming someone who can actually moderate sweet tasting things, when in the past I really did struggle with binge eating. I think that the root is something to consider. So for me, I couldn't gain weight to save my life. And I had everyone telling me, you just need to eat like it's your job. You need to do whatever you need to do to gain weight. And then I was held against my will in an eating disorder unit, brainwashed for a month. And when I came out of there, I was just desperate to have the approval of my family and friends again. So I used the keto treats, and I told a lie to myself that, you know, this binge eating is okay because I need to gain weight. And when I surrendered that, that's when I turned to carnivore, and it was a surrender of my heart and my need for control. And I recognized that it had become an idol in my life. And so there was a very, very clear moment where I had to pivot and surrender that addiction. And I think that's part of what allows me to partake in sweeteners and without the addiction anymore, because I'm a totally different person. It's a surrender thing for me. Whereas for you ladies, you've just been through seasons. You experienced addiction with it, and you don't want to go back into that season. So I just think it's really interesting how some people do need to be abstainers and some people need to be moderators. And I will also mention for myself, I don't touch any treats when I am emotionally compromised. If my husband and I had a fight, or if I'm upset by something, I don't touch those sweets, because I know that I can become an emotional person, and I don't want to overeat something. I want to eat to fuel myself. I want to eat with purpose. So I am so extremely intentional when I do eat those things. My husband, he needed my carnivore brownies to get to carnivore. He tried keto. He couldn't stick with it. He was so inflamed. He had heavy sugar addiction, eating those mini cheesecakes and things of cinnamon rolls every night by himself. He had it bad. And my carnivore brownies is what bridged him into carnivore. And now he can't even eat more than one of my carnivore cinnamon rolls. It's too sweet. We don't crave those things. And so that's a really good success story where those things were helpful. But for many, many people, and I would agree, maybe more people than not, they are a slippery slope, and it leads people to go into the real thing again. So, you know, I wish that there was like a black and white guide for people to identify, should you do it or should you not? But the best thing I can say is go through the season of cutting out the sweeteners 100%. Give yourself that chance, because if you can't do it, that means you're addicted. If it's that hard, if it's that difficult, you've got addiction. And I think you have to see through it to get to the other side.
I agree completely. And I love the 90-day challenge, or whatever we want to call it, you know, when that Lisa brought up 90 days to go without this, bring that fat in. If you're taking that on, bring the nutrition in. And I love the concept that we're all bringing about not using food as a state changer. And what I think is really unique and powerful about the carnivore diet is how much we learn about ourselves. We have so much experience, and we can rate things on a scale. And, you know, if you get to this point where you can have this eggnog once a year and it's not a problem, or you can have an oopsie cake once a year and it's not a problem, are we struggling in addiction at that point? It is a once a year issue, you know, but this self-awareness, is it a thing that's opening the door? Because if it's an addiction, having more of it doesn't get it out of your system. That's for sure. And so I think knowing yourself and knowing where you're at on that spot is just phenomenal. I just have a lot of respect and honor for you ladies. And just, I feel like this was just a super like awareness conversation. And I think that the conversation too has to do with building your community, and, you know, just the opportunity that we have, the more that we share these concepts and be like, that's how I am too. And that helps you be so strong and to do the hard things, because we all want to kind of, oh, it's okay. And it's like, that's not necessarily what we need. So I appreciate the voice that it is hard. It's supposed to be hard. It's hard because you're an addict and you can do it.
Yeah, so good. Well, I will go ahead and wrap up, but I want to give everyone a chance to say anything else that you want to say. Laura, Cindy, do you guys have anything else that you want to add on?
One thing I'd like to say to Lisa, am I on? Oh yeah, there it is. So I gave up caffeinated coffee, I think it was back in December. And I did find a Swiss water decaf, organic, yada, yada. Anyway, listening to you talking about giving up the coffee totally, I've really been on the fence. I'm not really enjoying the coffee, although, you know, I found a better brand than I had been using. But but it's I just keep going back and saying, why are you even doing this if you're not really enjoying it? It's more the ritual. It's the ritual of coffee that is what I'm hanging on to. So you may have just inspired me to have that last push to get out of there. We'll see where it goes. But
Yeah.
and I'm
You know,
sorry.
I was going to say your ritual could become, it's amazing to me. I never thought in a million years I would say this, but I actually enjoy hot water. I float a wedge of lemon in it. It tastes like tea. Tea is worse than coffee. So don't switch to tea as your
No,
ritual.
I don't care for tea.
I know, I get it. The warmth, the comfort of it, the ritual, having that in the morning while I check my emails, like whatever that ritual is, it's just so
Right.
wonderful, right? So, you know, hot broth works really well. The hot water to me works really well. And then when I want to treat every so often, I make that nog drink with the melted butter, the raw egg yolks, I froth it, boiling water, and even, you know, put a splash of vanilla extract or, you know, something that it's really delicious and it substitutes that ritual. But now you're putting, guess what? Butter and raw egg yolk. It's so healthy.
Right.
And it's not.
Right. I agree. And I've had that and I do enjoy that a lot. And Emily's heard me say this, my coffee, even the decaf, is my butter delivery system for the morning. So it's like, this is how I get in my fat to start. Cause I get up, I make that, I have some fat in it. I don't do the cream, just the fat and then, or the butter. And then that's it until maybe noon, 1 o'clock. So it's like, that's my butter delivery system. But seriously, I'm thinking it'd be just as easy to switch over and enjoy the froth, hot water and butter. And I guess I could still throw the egg yolk in because it's still just fat at that point, right? But anyway, I have never heard your whole story. So I didn't know exactly where you were coming from in all this. But I can certainly understand and how powerful that you have found this and know that this is how you have to do it. Because as you said, you have this addiction, you understand where it comes from in you. And for everyone, I mean, Rebekah, yours was the opposite story where you needed to be able to keep food in your body and build. But gosh, each of you, just so amazing. I really enjoyed getting to know Rebekah and Cindy on the retreat. And of course, Emily, that was our first physical meeting. She came and spent some time in Tennessee with me before we went to the retreat. And it's been amazing. And Lisa, I'm so happy to have finally gotten to meet you too.
Yeah, so nice to meet you.
I was hoping to make your Jersey meetup this year, but it looks like something got in the way again as usual, and it's not going to happen, but you never know. Maybe next year.
Yeah. And I'm, you know, Rebekah, I just want to put out here that I am so looking forward to really getting to know intimately the people that join into the retreat and eat with you and make you come out on beach walks with me and do cartwheels on the beach with me and share meals and Q&As. And it really truly is about community and feeling, you know, we as humans need connection. And it's amazing to get connected with like-minded people. So I'm really looking forward to it. And thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to have to miss it this year. I'm doing Italy in June, and I decided that has to be, that's the big one this year. So, but
That's
yeah,
awesome.
now I'm really sorry knowing that Lisa's going to be there too.
Well, there will hopefully be more. You know, Lisa, you're like I don't know anyone else in this community who's also as passionate about community as I am. And not just, I think the conferences are awesome, but there's such a big difference having an intimate group. You know, you're just going and eating meat with people at a table. Like, even just that can change someone's whole life, because so many of these people are surrounded by other people who think meat causes heart attacks, and it's just always pressing on you. So if you just have a real life interaction with someone who's in the same place and you're like, yeah, this is working, then you go home and you just feel so much more empowered to keep doing it. And you need that. Like you said, people need community and connection.
Absolutely. The thing that was so interesting about Laura and Emily and I was like, we found each other. Oh, you don't do that either? And we had this immediate bonding. And for anyone that, wonders, well, what do I need to do next? Get in a coaching group, go to a meetup, just be with other people. That has boosted my confidence the most was, being with other people. Cause, you follow people on Instagram, but, you wonder, is that their real life? Do they really do that? And then you go away with these people and it was like we were little ants on an anthill. Oh, okay. So it was a wonderful experience.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for being here. Just made my entire month. I think just seeing all your beautiful faces, and I am so inspired. I hope that I am as healthy and as beautiful as you guys as I age gracefully with the carnivore way of eating. And
you're lucky you found it so young, Rebekah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I really pushed my luck. I was so stubborn with the ketogenic diet. I was so stubborn. I almost drove myself into my own grave. I could have turned things around a lot sooner. And I was told about carnivore far before I ever did it. And so I'm just grateful to be here. And I just want you all to know that I really, really respect you. I respect you so much. And I'm thrilled that I've had the opportunity to meet most of you in person. And Lisa, I really look forward to spending time with you. So thank you again for being here.
All right. Bye, guys.
Awesome. Take care. Bye.
Have a good day, everyone.
You too. Hey you guys, my spring retreat is coming up. It's May 11 through 16 at North Myrtle Beach. We're gonna have Dr. Robert Kiltz and Dr. Lisa Wiedemann. They are incredible, very knowledgeable, wonderful carnivores. And this is an intimate setting, no more than 25 people. We're gonna have question and answers, unlimited amounts of Billy Doe meats, North Star bison. I'm gonna be making all of my recipes that will be going into my cookbook, including the exclusive ones. And it's just a great time to have a tribe, to experience this animal-based carnivorous lifestyle without white knuckling. You're gonna go home feeling motivated. You're gonna go home knowing that you have other people, other friends who are like-minded. You're not alone in this. And that's my goal, is for you to be able to go and live your life optimally in a sustainable way. And it's just unforgettable. And the fellowship, the eating, the relaxation, the recovery is huge. There are so many breakthroughs that happen during these retreats. There are so many conversations that you'll never forget that will impact you in a positive way for the rest of your life. If you're interested in my next retreat, please let me know by commenting down below or emailing me at rebecca@tailoredketo.health, and I will send you the info.